Hello and welcome to Chess with Simon. I'm Simon. We're starting with Ian. We're looking at Opening Explorer. It's going to tell us that it is going to tell us that Bishop G4. Well, it's going to tell us you can play E6 here. It's going to tell us the stats for E6 are better actually. And what are we going to say about that? Are we going to ignore that? The thing is, Daniel King told me to play Bishop G4, and it's a developing move. What else is there? E5. That's not ridiculous. Gains a tempo, but it weakens the D5 square. I assume that's the problem. E5. Whoa, knight G5. Answers on a postcard after that one. Knight G5. Well, oh, you take the bishop, do you? The mind boggles. Okay. Well, don't really know. Should we just... The thing is, Ian expects me to play Bishop G4, and he will have programmed it. So, you know, it's a shame to disappoint people, isn't it, really? Let's just sort of, you know, play the game, as they say. Why mess with perfection? I mean, so there are other moves. So after this, what's he going to play? We'll find out, won't we? H3. Well. Putting the question to the bishop, and I suppose the answer is we take the knight. But we'll think about that, won't we? That's how correspondence works. We'll think about it. Now, this one, I've thought about this. We're going to play D6. And the reason we're going to play D6 is because we're going to follow up. Well, we would like to follow up with E5 to block out that fianchettoed bishop, which has committed itself very early. But if white plays D4, breaks the centre, I assume then white's made a concession by swapping the D pawn for the C pawn, although that's one of the big theories. And anyway, D6 isn't a bad move. D6 is a good move. I mean, D5 is a bad... Well, D5 isn't a terrible move because you take with the queen, right? But we're not doing D5. We're doing D6. I think the stats... We'll just have a look at the stats because I think it's important to have a look. The stats for D6 are really good. I mean, actually the stats for D5 are better. Look at that. It's not very often played. Like 4 times versus 214 times. But D5, C takes, queen takes. Look at that. You can't take with a knight, can you? Okay, we're not doing any of that business. We're going to play strategically. We're going to take it seriously. We're going to play the main line. We're going to play D6. And in a way, this is the attempt to exploit the early fianchetto of the queen's bishop. Confirm move. This, I think, is traditional here to give a check with the queen. Then when the pawn blocks the check, it's traditional to retreat the queen to e7, where it's defending the e-pawn, and we get a beautiful, balanced, complex position. This one, I think I saw Daniel Dubov play this in a blitz game, c4, b6, and he sort of said, well, it can confuse the opponent. Well, it certainly confused me. So, I think what I'm going to do is to play knight c3 on the basis it cannot be a bad move. I wanted to play e4, but I kind of changed my mind because the stats didn't look so good. e4, it's not very commonly played, and it's basically equal for white and black, so statistically that would suggest you don't get an advantage. Knight c3 is the most common. I mean, it's a natural move, right? You're putting the knight behind the pawn. You can still play e4, very much so. Black can't play d5. I mean, I think black's playing bishop d7, and then actually e4 is the main move, although the stats are bad. d4 is more of a move. d4 is obviously still a good move. Maybe there's a transposition. I mean, looks a bit like Queen's Indian, doesn't it? I mean, this looks like a good queen, although black plays f5, it makes it a slightly different opening. Back into more of a Dutch structure, but basically, knight c3 is a good move. Here, we're going to play g3. You just got to check there's no e4. So this is Mark has played a good move here, correct move. I like it, very principled. I suppose if white's not careful, white might get into a kind of reversed Maroczy bind. And so I think control of d5 becomes very important. I guess that's the idea, isn't it? So after g3, can black get... Black can't get d5 in here. What about if black plays knight f6? We play bishop g2. I think it's quite dangerous to play d5. You probably... No one does it, right? No. Okay. So basically, what did they play? d6? d6 doesn't worry me. So I don't think black can quite make it to a reversed Maroczy, but I'm looking out for that. Alex. Is it Alex? I think it's Alex. I'm almost sure. No, it's Mark. Sorry, Mark. I'm looking out for that, Mark. G3. And that's developing into an interesting game. I mean, black's playing in a principled way. Okay, my understanding is here, you've got to play bishop d7 to, so that if white takes on c6, you take back with a bishop, actually. This is a tricky move. But the bishop is much better on c6. And also just looks harmonious, doesn't it? Looks harmonious. I mean, I'm very worried about this game, and I'm very worried about the game against Nigel, because I'm worried I'm going to get, like, annihilated, on the internet. Slowly but surely annihilated. Which is not a good... will not be a good experience, really. But, I mean, that's the risk you take, right, when you play correspondence on the internet. Okay, so I've got two King's Indians running here. One with Keith, and I'm going to play knight f3. I'm not going to play f4. I think knight f3 is the correct move here. I think it's sort of classical, right? Let's see what black has against this move, which cannot be wrong. And look, Endarian, who are you, Endarian? Tell me in the comments. You're getting the same treatment. So why don't you two chat to each other and work out what to do next, or do your own thing? I guess the great joy of chess, there's lots of joys in chess, but one of the many joys is you get to make the decisions, right? You don't have to ask anybody. You make your own mistakes. You make your own glory. G6. G6 then for Nigel, and see what happens with the knight. So he's a move or two behind Liam. But I have no doubt that, he'll be ploughing his own furrow. I mean, I did G6 with Liam. So, I must have thought it was a good idea at the time. What's this? Oh, this is the game that went c4, c5, b3, e5, bishop b2, knight c6, e3. But the thing about e3 here is there's no bishop pin on b5, is there? So it looks a little bit less good in that sense. So what can I do? Knight f6 or g6? Oh, I think I prefer knight f6 to g6. Knight f6, then what do they do? Knight c3. Can't I play d5? d5, takes, knight f3. Okay, I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. But for now, I think knight f6 is a sensible move. It's a sensible move. It's a good move. Black's putting his pieces on logical squares. I mean, d6, if you end up playing d6, it's hardly the end of the world. And it's interesting. It's the same principle as the game with Nick. You're trying to block out that bishop, although at some stage white might be able to get d4 in. Maybe. Sidewinder. So this is white's move. Is this Gary? This is Gary. Gary. Okay. Studying chess and trying to remember what the hell I'm doing. At least he's honest about it. So that's where we all are, Gary. And it's good that telling the truth is the first step to chess greatness. Or something. Knight f3. Why not? Get a knight out. Oh, Gareth's taken the knight. That's a surprise, isn't it? I mean, probably didn't take much thought. So now, Bishop g7 and c5 are the two moves. I'm not sure the order they happen in matters. I would play bishop g7, yeah. Apparently... Oh, is there a queen check? Well, bishop g7 is played 97% of the time. So, you know, let's not argue with democracy, eh? By popular vote. This is the Ian game. I mean, you've got to take it, haven't you? Let's have a look at the analysis. Have you got to take it? No, you haven't got to take it. In fact, you can pulling back in some ways is seen as better. Don't they play g4? No, g4 is bad. Queen b3, but then the bishop's defending f7. Love it. Love it. Then all sorts of stuff gets played here. Queen d7 to defend b7. The mind absolutely boggles. I mean, the king looks a long way from castling, but maybe white's attack isn't yet breaking through. So maybe we can get away with it. All right, I'll think about that. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. Let's do it all again tomorrow. Let's see how these beautiful games develop.